Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Mayor. I am Ed DeVoe, sitting here with Mayor Dan Rizzo. Welcome, Dan.
Great to see you, Ed, as always.
As always, it's been a long time since we last talked. I think it was November.
I think the last time we spoke, it was pre 9 feet of snow. So
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to go to at the beginning and talking about this winter, because it was quite eventful. I mean, we had the tornado last year, and then we came into this horrendous winter. Talk a little bit about the city's response and the cleanup and everything that's come along from it.
Yeah, clearly Revere was in the same boat as every other city in town, almost throughout Massachusetts and lots of New England. But this winter, I think what made it so unique, in addition to the fact that we broke an all-time record for snowfall, what made it so tough to deal with and really magnified it was the fact that the 9 feet of snow fell within a very small period of time, a small window. It wasn't really, the snowfall didn't hit us from, let's say, December through March. It was essentially from mid-January to mid-February. All the snowfall came. So it was extremely difficult to deal with. And, as our residents typically do, most of them handled it extremely well. You had some people that obviously were frustrated and, maybe just wished that all the snow would go away. But, we dealt with it as diligently as we possibly could, and as you alluded to, we just came off a tornado in late July and still really cleaning up after that. And now we get hit with the worst winter in recorded history. So it's been a very, very difficult time, but I definitely have to give credit to our own Public Works Department and to all the independent contractors that were out there virtually around the clock trying to keep, my goal was to keep every road passable for emergency vehicles. That's about the best that I could have hoped for, because we did have little windows of time where I asked that we remove snow from some of the major arteries. And I'm glad we did, because it only made room for future snowfall. Otherwise, God knows what it would have been like. But, we incurred an awful lot of cost in order to do it. It really wasn't a situation similar to the tornado where I didn't have the luxury of saying, well, how much is it going to be to remove that tree that's laying across Broadway right now? So it was like, just get it done. Yep. We'll figure out the cost later, which is essentially what we did with the snowfall. As you probably know, the president only declared one storm as FEMA reimbursement eligible.
Exactly.
And so, we overspent our budget, I think, 6 or 7 times. And we may get enough money to cover what our original snow budget was. So we really blew through it. We'll be able to kind of amortize those costs over a couple years with the DOR, and so we won't have to take the hit all at once. But nonetheless, it's still a hit. It's real money that we had to pay, whether it be for overtime or for independent contractor costs. So it was a tough one. It was a tough one. I'm hoping we get maybe an easier winter next year.
And then it goes to the cleanup, and now we're into spring with the potholes and everything else. Are they even worse this year because of all the snow we got, or is it fairly the same?
There's no question. The potholes are absolutely worse. And think of what a pounding that our roads took to try to clear those 9 feet of snow. I mean, the roads were just getting beat up and torn up and beat up. We lost, I think, about 20 fire hydrants because plow contractors couldn't see them. They were buried in snow. And so really, we are in a mess. We are bringing in independent contractors again to try to help us fill these potholes, but they are numerous. There's been some issues in obtaining asphalt. So yeah, so so now we go from people that were upset over the snowfall, and I anticipated this, by the way, so it's not, to people that are now upset about potholes, and we're trying to get to them as fast as we can. If I had the luxury of having 100 guys like some of our surrounding cities and towns do. I could probably do more with Public Works, but, when I took over, I think we had about 30, 35 guys down there. It's hard to fill in potholes all over the city with 35 guys, and not to mention it's not the only thing that Public Works does. So it's a challenge, but we're getting to it. I ask the public's patience. I know it's easier said than done. Nobody likes to come home every night and have to dodge potholes, or even worse, fall, get into a pothole, or physically step into a pothole. They are dangerous, but we're trying to get to them.
Yeah. And going forward, and I know you recently, I think, attended a city council meeting or a subcommittee meeting talking about plans for next year. What might you do differently? What sort of things might you add in next year that frankly haven't been part of the process?
Yeah, well, there's a few things, obviously, that we're going to try to take care of. One of which is all these hydrants. As I said earlier, we lost a bunch of hydrants because of the hydrants being covered. So we're going to be purchasing and installing these kind of tall wire kind of indicators where
With the little pendants on the top.
yeah,
Yep.
to help identify where the hydrants are, so that either homeowners or our fire department or public works department can get these hydrants all shoveled out for emergencies, obviously, and to notify contractors when they're plowing so that they don't hit these hydrants. The other thing that we have to address is expanding our snow emergency zones, because Revere, the streets in Revere were built at a time when people didn't have, really in many cases, vehicles, let alone multiple vehicles. And now the city is inundated with vehicles. Parking is a huge issue, and it's magnified by 100 when you have heavy snowfall. So we have to really start having, and quickly, I want this done by next winter, conversations about expanding the snow emergency zone, so that when we declare a snow emergency, it's not just major arteries. We're going to have to pick, we're going to have to, expand that out to different streets. And we're going to have to also address parking. Right now, there's streets where there's parking allowed on both sides, when really parking should only be allowed on one side. And during snow emergencies, arguably no parking at all on either side of the street. And I know that's going to present some troubles for people, particularly those that don't have driveways. But, there's in order for us to be prepared for the next heavy snowfall type winter, we have to change the way we do things. We've got streets that are currently two-way streets. Even in optimum weather, some of these streets shouldn't be two-way. Yeah. So we're going to have to make these changes in conjunction with the Traffic Commission. It's all going to be, I know it's going to be, a change in the way that we've done things in the city for many, many years. But I think after we, once we make these decisions and we start to implement them, it's only going to help. So.
Yep. All right. Going to a sad subject in the sense that since we last met, of course, we lost Richie Penta, the Ward 1 councilor and a great person to the city of Revere. Talk a little bit about what that means to you personally, the city, because I know you were friends, and the city council and the city itself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a huge loss. Personally, it's a huge loss. Richard was a tremendous friend. I've been friends with Richard and his family for many, many years. Richie was a great counselor, and if there's anybody that knew the issues, it was Richard. He was kind of he was a street guy, so he could speak the lingo, he could speak the language, with anybody. But when it came to issues, Richard knew the issues as good or better than anyone. And he was, it's funny because whenever we talk on the phone, and this is, I'm not saying this is the dead honest to God's truth. Whenever I talked to Richard on the phone, it was always about, there was never a conversation I think we had that wasn't about an issue in the city. hey, do you think we can get somebody down to go fix this? Hey, do you think someone can go look at that? What are we going to do with this ordinance? What are we going to do? You know, he was very, very in tune with his job. And he's, you know, it's a huge loss to me personally. I believe it's a huge loss to the city council and certainly a huge loss to Ward 1, an area that he represented for many years. So.
Yeah. Well, being a member of the Beachmont Improvement Committee, and he attended a lot of our meetings and did a lot, you know, of work with us on different things. He's going to be sorely missed. Hopefully, Joanne McKenna will become the next Ward 1 councilor, and we'll see what happens in May, and she'll be able to carry on that tradition. But and I just wanted to say, I made a little comment in the memorial page for his obituary about, you know, I'm going to miss those times sitting with him at Toretta's. And I jokingly say maybe we should take that piece of land and call it, you know, Richie's Corner.
I think, you know what, yeah, I think that would be a great idea, right? You know, it's funny because it's funny that you would mention Toretta's because that was his hangout.
Yes,
he would go down there and hold court with all you guys. And, you know, I got to come by and, you know, spend some time with you every now and then. And, you know, I was even thinking to myself one day, I was thinking they should have a chair down there just with his name on it.
No, that's not a bad idea. I'll talk to Ralphie about that.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So moving on from there, and again, talking about the spring now, we're into the spring, past the winter and all of that stuff. Coming up this weekend, we have Revere Shines. Talk a little bit about what's planned for Saturday.
Yeah, so it's very, very exciting. Debbie West and Miles in my office and you know, along with others that are helping out. I believe the Chamber of Commerce is, is getting involved, and as they are with the Columbus Day Parade. So, I mean, we've got a lot of different groups, a lot of different entities that are participating. Our JROTC kids are coming out and helping. We've got, you know, individual residents that are volunteering. You know, we're expecting, this has grown over the last 4 years. I mean, we started off, I think our first year, we might have had maybe 150 people out cleaning the city. And, you know, we're expecting this year anywhere from 500 to 700 people out cleaning up the city. And we've got great partners with the DOT, Mass Highway, DOT, and our own Public Works Department will be out there helping us out. So we clean, I mean, tons of trash off the street. It's the city's version of spring cleanup, you know, spring cleaning. So, I know that the Beachmont Improvement Committee typically has gone out and done plantings and cleaned up islands, and so it really spruces the city up. That is, you know, to me, Ed, that's one of my big pet peeves. And you know, like anything else, you don't always bat 1,000, but I try to in keeping the city clean and beautifying the city and making the city look nice, you know, so take pride in it.
Every little bit helps. Yeah. And one question that comes up every year, the recycle. Are you going to be doing the recycle down the beach, or is that not going to be?
I don't think we're doing the recycling this year. I don't. Last year, they were charging, I believe, and it kind of, you know, people were saying, geez, I mean, I didn't necessarily have to make this like special trip. Yep. So I don't think we're doing that, but we are doing the expired medication take back, and that's critical because we have, you know, again, like it's so challenging, the opiate overdoses that we're experiencing, and unfortunately the fatalities that we're experiencing. You know, it's said, and I do believe that a lot of these opiate addictions come from prescription drugs or start from prescription drugs. You know, if you've got, you know, 65% of people leaving Boston hospitals on an opiate-based prescription, there's real trouble there. It's very easy. You can see how it's easy for someone to get addicted because the nature of the drug, it is so addictive. And so, you know, hopefully a lot of people will take advantage of looking in their medicine chests and seeing any expired medications that they want to get rid of. They can get rid of it safely by taking it down to the American Legion building, where we'll be collecting them and disposing of them properly.
And so if you want to participate in the medication drop-off, but also in Revere Shines, show up at the American Legion, what, 8:30?
8:30, 8:45, this coming Saturday, April 25th, yeah.
They usually have plenty of rakes and shovels and bags and whatever you need to
Whatever
do the
they
work.
need, and if we run out, we'll go get some. So
Yeah, exactly.
yep.
You mentioned something earlier, and just want to go back to the winter because a huge shout out to the JROTC. I was saying earlier that I remember during the first snowstorm, after 4 or 5 hours of out there with my snowblower, here they come marching down Crescent Ave in single file, marching literally down Crescent Ave after having shoveled all day long. And they, if I remember right, they literally marched from Beachmont back to Broadway. And it was just an incredible sight to see. I was just sitting there high-fiving them all as they came by. And they were there for every snowstorm. Talk a little bit about that, because I think you just recently honored them, if I'm not mistaken.
We did, and every year that this is, I believe, our third year that we've implemented or asked them to help us out in creating this program that we now call Snow Angels. These are, there's about 90 to 100 JROTC kids that participate in these missions. They call them missions, which we have people, whether they're elderly people or disabled people, who can't shovel themselves out and have no one else to shovel them out. Like, there's a lot of people that maybe, older people that really can't get themselves shoveled out, but they may have a neighbor, they may have a friend, they may have a son or daughter that can help them when it snows out. But there's others that really have no other options than to, even trying to get someone to pay these days is very difficult. So these JROTC kids go out just as community service, and they get community service hours for it. But they shovel these residents out, and it's become such a terrific program. Like, they've been featured on Fox TV, they've been featured, I believe, some other network television stations for their hard work, and I recognize them every year. We typically will present them, each individual cadet will present them with a certificate of appreciation, and then I usually throw a pizza party for them. But I said this year, with 9 feet of snow, and I don't know how many separate missions, I said this year we're going to Kowloon. So Representative Wong helped us out up there at Kowloon. We got Superintendent Dakin helped us with a couple of buses to get the kids up to Kowloon, and we had a nice celebration where I was able to thank them again for their hard work and their service. This is such, I'll tell you, I've got a very, very, very real strong affinity for this group, because these are just high school kids. It's hard to believe when you talk with them. These are just high school kids. Some of them, a lot of them are freshmen, sophomores, and the commitment and dedication and professionalism and the way they carry themselves is absolutely incredible. It's a tremendous program, and it's a program that's growing each and every year.
I've interviewed them, and with Major Booker, I'm sorry, I forget the other gentleman, Colonel
Bob Callender.
Thank you, Bob Callender. They're doing such a great job, and every one of these kids is really a great symbol or emblem of the city. I mean, they hold themselves well. They're so smart and so good. I can't say enough, obviously.
Thank you, Ed, and really, I appreciate you acknowledging them, know. And if I could just go back to the recognition ceremony, what we do too, and I think it really creates a great dynamic, we invite the recipients of the service. So we invite the seniors and people with disabilities that are being helped. Some of them can get here, some can't for other, for various reasons, but it's great to see them interact with the kids they've become close. I mean, it's a program that I take so much pride in, and I'm so proud of these kids, and obviously Major Bowker and Sergeant Major Callender. They do a tremendous job with their battalion commanders, and it's really fun to see.
It's a great program. So moving on, and related to schools, and you mentioned Paul Dakin, who's going to be leaving us shortly if he hasn't already, and now there is a new superintendent in place. You want to talk about the changeover and what Paul's meant to the city?
Yeah, well, Dr. Dakin is entitled to retire.
Dr. Dakin, right?
Right. No. Because Dr. Dakin is that type of guy. He wouldn't care if you call him doctor, you call him Paul, Uh, he's just he's been an incredible superintendent, and that's just not me saying it. That is, I mean, you know, he's received awards and recognition from across the state and across the country. So, you know, his record will always speak for itself and what he's meant to the Revere School Department. Fortunately, Dr. Diane Kelly, who has served with Dr. Dakin as an assistant superintendent, has agreed to accept the job, which is really good news for the Revere School Department, because all the good things that Dr. Dakin has been able to accomplish, and you know, his leadership and his direction that has led to such success within our schools, he's been doing this side by side with Dr. Kelly. So it's our hope, and I have complete faith in Dr. Kelly carrying on the good work that they have done together to bring our school department to where it is. So if we ever had to go outside the district and bring somebody else in, you know, I'm afraid of what could potentially have happened. So I'm so grateful that she's just going to kind of take the baton and carry on in the same tradition that Dr. Dakin did. I know, you know, it's a big loss losing Dr. Dakin, but you know, I have nothing but high hopes and complete confidence in Dr. Kelly's ability to even take our school department to the next level.
And speaking of the school, and it was nice to see that in today's Globe, the Revere School, Lincoln School in particular, were acknowledged for the program, the Bay State Reading Institute, and that model that they've kind of instituted to raise reading levels.
Yeah, it's always great. You know, like this was today's Joan Bernanke
Yes, exactly.
editorial, and you know, it's really great to see our schools continue to shine, not just amongst each other here in the city of Revere, but in the Boston media and beyond. They are doing great work at the Lincoln School. Jody Genotti and Debbie West's daughter, who works for me in my office, her daughter Stephanie, who was featured in that article. The one thing that I think is, you know, I mean, there's so many things that are significant to me to watch when I go to visit these schools, but the level of commitment that our administrators and teachers have to these kids, and you know, many of these kids have challenges, whether it's you know, whether they're ELL students or students with disabilities. You know, there's a whole gamut of students that you know, you've got, I think, close to 70% that are on either free or reduced lunch, you know, so there's some significant challenges that have to be dealt with in the entire school district. But, you know, the way that these teachers and administrators deal with these kids and the results they're getting is tremendous. I mean, think about this, we're the only urban school district, 24 cities and towns, that has been recognized for all level 1 and 2 schools. That's out of every single school district in the urban school district. I mean, how much more could you expect or ask for? And so I'm very, very proud of our school department, and certainly proud of the Lincoln School, the gains that they've been able to make. And you know, they're giving these kids a great jump and head start as they continue on to middle school and then ultimately high school and hopefully on to college. You know, our dropout rate is down below 1%, and our graduation rate is I think somewhere in the mid 90s, and kids going on to higher education, onto either 2 or 4 year colleges, I think is around 90% right now. So really tremendous success, you know, in such a diverse school district like Revere.
Yeah, and what I thought interesting about reading that article about that program too was the fact that they break up into groups, I think, of 6 kids, and they're somewhat self-directed. And what was really impressive about the whole thing was how they interacted to help each other. For example, they were talking about one child translating for another child who didn't have a great grasp of English. So he was translating for the child who didn't speak English well so that that child could participate in the group and get all the benefits of the group. So they're all helping each other to bring each other up. So that was fantastic. And what a great start in terms of, trying to instill that spirit, that feeling.
Yeah, yeah. So this is all centered around the, the basis for what we call student-centered learning. And these breakout sessions, these different groups, some are led, some are peer groups, kids teaching kids and helping each other. Others have paraprofessionals. Some have, in this case, the Bay State Reading Program people that are involved, and then the teachers. So and they rotate around, and so it's not the days of teachers standing in front of the class and lecturing for 40 minutes and then going to the next class and getting another 40 minutes of lecture. Those days are gone. When you're, you get much more, I think, when you're interacting in small groups. Sure. And so, it's great work that's going on at the Lincoln and great work that's going on in all schools across the Revere School Department.
Always think back to and given that vision and that image back to Charlie Brown and the teacher up in the front of the class going, wah, wah, wah. No more of that.
Yeah, exactly.
While we're on the subject of schools, the Hill School and the football stadium, the progress there, fill us in on where that stands and when things will be open.
Yeah, it's been pretty tricky. You've got 2 different contractors working on 2 different projects side by side, both major projects. They're both currently on time. They're both currently on budget. I know that one of the projects there was some debate over whether the cost had gone up or not. The cost actually went down. We went before the city council because we had to modify some language due to a grant that was received. We received a $2.72 million grant on the stadium, and then we had to bond the balance. But the bond was reduced by the amount of the grant. So if we bonded it, let's say, we took a $5.5 million bond, they minus the $2.72 million that we got as a grant. So we needed that $5.5 million, and so they only gave us 5.5 minus 2.72. So we said, no, we need the 5.5. So we had to go back and rework the language. The language, we only needed an additional $2 million, is because they deducted 2.72 million from the bond. We only asked for an additional $2 million because we actually overshot on the cost. So it netted out to a $700,000 savings to the taxpayers. I know that didn't come through at the council meeting necessarily, but those are the facts. And so that's coming along. We should be having some sort of a ribbon cutting there. I think sometime maybe in June. And the 690-seat new Staff Sergeant James J. Hill School is set to open when school starts in September. So, good things.
Yeah, very good things. Any other construction projects underway? I've heard rumor of a possibility of a high school, but that's still in the early stages of discussion, or?
Yeah, I believe we're processing a statement of interest right now. But it's going to take a lot. We're going to have to do a lot of soul searching or create some significant revenues to, the one thing that I do feel, and again, it's all based on money, but we've got all these beautiful new elementary schools, we've got these beautiful middle schools, and then we put them into a 50-year-old high school, so would I like to build a new high school? Absolutely. Do we have the money right now to build a new high school? I don't think so. So right now we're just trying to keep it all together, but we are going to be undertaking 3 new ball fields behind St. Mary's starting after the season ends this year, so I think starting in July, so this time next year. We should have 3 beautiful new fields. One of them is replacing where the new Staff Sergeant James J. Hill, the old Hill Park. That's going to replace, and then the other two fields, we're just going to make it a nice complex, make it all work well together so that, again, kids have that open space. I'm very, very much into, we've got 7,000 kids in our school department, so in our school system. So these kids need, as much as they need good schools and they need to get a good education, they need some good play space too.
Definitely.
So, we're committed to that.
Yeah, and speaking of fields, you bring it up on McMacken Field. I know that's been a continual problem almost every year in the spring with the flooding, and I know it was a major problem this year because of all the snow and everything that we've had. Can you talk a little bit about what's being done there?
So McMacken, it's kind of interesting, the dynamic. At one time, McMacken Field was owned by the city of Revere, and up until just recently, behind St. Mary's, those fields were not owned by the city. They were privately owned by the Archdiocese. Now it's flipped the other way around. McMacken is privately owned. The city gave that land to the Revere Little League, and St. Mary's we purchased to preserve those fields so that if, God forbid, something ever were to happen with the church over at St. Mary's, we would still maintain those fields so kids could have those places to play baseball and softball. McMacken Field has a serious flooding problem. They've always had a serious flooding problem, but it was exacerbated by some of the work that was done in repairing a major sewer line that runs nearby, because that sewer line was so deteriorated that what was happening is water was draining from the field into the sewer line and going out to Deer Island. So, not only was it costing ratepayers to take this, drainage from the field and going through Deer Island and us being charged for, but, it was part of what has led to the city being under a consent decree right now and having to do all this water and sewer work to our infrastructure. So we repaired that. We were forced to repair it. And now that water, that drainage has nowhere to go. So it's just kind of backing up into the field. We don't have any legal rights, let alone an obligation, but we don't have any legal rights to go onto that field. I can't spend tax dollars on a privately owned piece of land. So unless that field reverts back to the city, there's not much that I can do. Now, in the meantime, the McMacken Little League is not even taking registrations right now. So they're not even having a season this year. So it's creating kind of another weird set of circumstances because there's still kids that want to play baseball. And I know the numbers are up over at Revere Youth Baseball, which used to be the St. Mary's League. So I don't know. We have to kind of take a close look at that. They've got some serious work to do if they ever want to get that field back in good shape. And so that's going to be kind of a work in progress.
All right, well, thanks for that update, because it puts a new perspective that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah.
Because they look at it as the city problem, and it's not necessarily.
No.
Okay. Talking about money, needing money to do things, it's a good segue into the next segment on economic development. And of course, coming up this week, we've got well, I want to step back a second. Let's talk about progress on the Waterfront Square project, which will bring economic development and money to the city sooner than later.
Yeah, that's going extremely well. We have the Vanguard that is coming along nicely. They've got the first, I think all told it's going to be 194 units. I think they've got about 28 units already pre-rented now. Market rate rents, the rents actually are higher than what they had anticipated, which is a great sign because, we know and have known that Revere is a desirable place to be. So, I'm told that people that are renters are a lot of young professionals that want to take advantage of that Blue Line connection, which is the whole basis for a TOD project. And we're going to be breaking ground in another couple of months with Budge Upton and TA Associates. They're doing 230 units of, again, high-end luxury apartment living, all part of the master plan with the TOD. And if things continue going down the track that we anticipate they are, we are signing on with a Marriott hotel that will be setting up right next to the Marquee Bridge. We'll be signing on with them July 1st. So some good things happening down on the Waterfront Square project.
And looking at long-range planning, I know that recently there, and ongoing actually, is the Engage Revere project. I want to talk a little bit about what that is and what's happening there, some of the events. I know there's something coming up this week.
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to get about 50 to 60, I forget the exact number, of Harvard University graduate students that are participating in a program where we've identified 8 sites across the city, and they have broken out into groups and are preparing their own reports and their vision for how to best develop these sites. So that's going to play right into our own initiative, which is the Plan Revere initiative that we unveiled back in January, to try to figure out, you know, with the help of residents, with the help of business owners, with the help of nonprofits, elected officials, a group of about 50 to 60 people that are all going to participate, and, you know, in subcommittee fashion, to prepare a report that's going to help guide the city into the next several decades, hopefully. It's something that I don't think we've ever really done as a community, kind of figure out who do we want to be, how do we want to get to the point where, or how, you know, where do we want to go, how do we get there. These are all things, we've never really had that type of a comprehensive roadmap. So John Fester is leading that charge, and this group of Harvard students is kind of acting as an adjunct to that. They're going to provide their reports to this group. And so very, very exciting stuff going on surrounding economic development and I think development in general here in the city of Revere. Yeah.
Now, and giving the, talking about the Engage Revere, and forgive me if you said it and I missed it, this Thursday night, there's the meeting at City Hall.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did not mention it. So obviously the public is invited to come up Thursday night into the City Council chambers. The students from Harvard will have a bunch of easels set up with some of their framework as to the, you know, to show and identify the work that they're doing, the work that they're, you know, that is ongoing, and to kind of interact with people. Because a lot of information they get are that they, you know, they rely heavily on working with people like yourself, other elected officials, business owners, you know, a whole gamut of people that have some sort of input or insight into what the city's future may look like. And, you know, these kids are, you know, they're graduate students. So, you know, some of them have some real life professional experience. So, you know, we're very, very blessed and fortunate to you know, have had their services and have them here working in the city. And that, as you said, is Thursday night. So,
Yeah, and so you get the Engage Revere, which will feed into the Plan Revere.
Yes.
Which, if I remember correctly, those first meetings are starting up sometime in May.
Yes.
And so looking forward to participating in those meetings and moving ahead, because it should be some fun, you know, planning ahead. I mean, we all worked hard for the Mohegan Sun project, which didn't happen. Now we reset our sights and move ahead to other things, bigger and better, hopefully.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
I wanted to talk a little bit about cultural integration and diversity within the city, and we all know that Revere is has a very diverse population. And earlier this year, there were some disturbing messages and letters that went out to people, and the Office of New Revere Residents, your office, and a number of the people in the community came together to address that. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ongoing activities in terms of trying to instill and improve cultural diversity and integration within the community?
You know, we've talked about the Office of New Revere Residents, you know, in the past. You know, it's a group of volunteers right now. As much as I'm working and trying to identify office space for them, I have floated the idea before the City Council, and I think that councilors are starting to realize that, you know, we do need to do some work in City Hall, and hopefully eventually they're going to have some space where they can work out of. But in spite of not having any space or really formal programming, they have been consistently meeting, and with respect to that hate mail that was put out down in the Shirley Ave area, that was, I think the chief of police, state police have all pretty much come to the conclusion it was one person spouting off, and there's no, you know, like there's no real threat there. We, I and the chief, along with the chief, met with the Office of New Revere Residents to talk about what was going on with respect to trying to find the perpetrator of that particular letter, and you know, that is still ongoing. It's not totally forgotten, but you know, we believe, as I say, it's not any type of immediate threat. It was somebody that, you know, unfortunately, you know, you do have hateful people out there that will say hateful things, but we have a community that, you know, you think about it, like, you know, last year's graduating class at Revere High School, you know, 500 some odd kids, I think, you know, speaking 50 different languages, representing 50 different countries. These kids, they interact with each other. They don't know where they're from. All they know is that they're kids, they're human beings that all want the same things out of life. So, you know, and I think most people are like that. That's what makes Revere so special. We've always been a very open and welcoming community, and that's not going to change. So, you know, I'm proud of the work they're doing. I think tonight at the Turkish Cultural Center down on Revere Street.
Yep.
They're going to be sponsoring. It's Good Food Week, I think.
It's the Healthy Dining Initiative and the
yes.
Good Food Week, right?
Yeah, so they're going to be participating in that. They're going to be participating in Revere Shines. They're trying to get the word out amongst their group, you know, so that we get a good representation of people that are participating through the Office of New Revere Residents. I think you're familiar with the community school that I think grew out of this Office of New Revere Residents. So, and that's been wildly successful. So, yeah, I mean, you know, they continue to do great work, and I see only bigger and better things for them as we start to figure out how can we fit them into everyday City Hall life.
Anything I missed at this point that you want to bring up?
No, I think we've covered an awful lot of topics.
Yeah.
We've
Oh, it's
you
been
know,
a long time. We haven't talked for a while. You know,
Yeah.
It's like two old friends getting together after many years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, I know that you know, summer's around the corner, so we'll hopefully be talking about sandcastles eventually. That is just, you know, the Revere Beach Partnership continues to just want to one-up themselves every year, and this year is no different. They are now having, I think, 5 sand sculptures will be done by 2 sculptors. So they're going to have duels now instead of just one. They're going to have
Teams.
individuals, and they're going to have teams of 2 doing, I think, 5 sculptures. So I can only imagine. You see what one can do on one sculpture, so you can only imagine. And you know, it's always a great time. We get to showcase our city, and knock on wood, good weather. So.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, once again, Dan, I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful.
Pleasure, Ed.
And until we meet again, take care.